Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrienne and today I'm talking about some of my best reading recommendations for fall time, autumn. It's October and I know we all want to get into that spooky mood or atmospheric or just that immersive, maybe slightly scary vibe for Halloween time and fall in general. So I have some recommendations. Just a few random books. I have 50 books I could recommend, but these are just the ones that I wanted to talk about today and that I think will be good recommendations for if you want to get into the spooky, dark, moody reading. So the first one is a brand new release, The September House by Carissa Orlando. So new in fact that I'm still reading it. I have about 100 pages left, but I'm loving it and it's the exact vibe I was looking for. So the books on this list are here because of their vibe, their atmosphere. Maybe they're not set in autumn, but they give that autumn feeling. The tone of the story fits what I think autumn reading should feel like. This one obviously is set in September, but it follows a woman who moves into this Victorian house that is haunted, but she doesn't care because she loves this house and she wants to stay no matter what. And the atmosphere in this book, first off, she's drinking tea every other page. It's spooky, it's creepy, there's ghosts that she's interacting with, but her husband left because he's sick of this haunted house, and her adult daughter comes to the house because she wants to know where her dad is and why her mom didn't tell her that he's been gone for a month and nobody's heard from him. So she comes to find out what happened. Meanwhile, her mom is trying to keep the fact that the house is haunted from her daughter, but it is September, so all the antics of the house are tenfold in September. The walls are bleeding, they're screaming in the night, and there's more ghosts than usual. So it's been very entertaining, a little silly, but fun. And I think the silliness counterbalances some of the darker themes about this woman's relationships, her past, and also the past of the house and the ghosts and all the deaths associated with the September house. But I'm having such a good time. Editing me will tell you what I rated the book, but it feels like it's going to be a 5-star. Next up, I have a more recent release as well. This is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I love Lisa Jewell. She's one of my favorite thriller authors. She can write darker themes in books and not scare me away. I usually don't love the darker, grittier side of people and humanity, but Lisa Jewell can write about it in a way that I just can't stop reading. This book follows a woman who has a podcast career and she meets this woman with the same birthday as her. So she wants to do a podcast with her. It's called Hi, I'm Your Birthday Twin. And through this podcast and also our experience from this perspective of Josie, the birthday twin, we find out that Josie has a very dark past and some present day things going on that aren't quite what they seemed at first. And then Alex, the one who runs the podcast, is wanting to find out more information about Josie and find out about her life, but then it starts to get a little creepy and weird and uncomfortable between her and Josie. So they both have very different lives and we see how that affects them and their view of each other. And then just finding out about what has happened to Josie and what she's been through and what maybe not so great things she's been involved with was just so addicting to read and had that dark tone. It's not actually scary or spooky, but a little bit, a sprinkle of it. Next up, if you get those cozy autumn vibes from the Great British Bake Off, no matter what season it is in the show or real life, then The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell is a great pick. This is a thriller set during a baking competition show when all of the contestants are staying at this old manor house. It's this grand estate and competing in a show together, but also interacting with each other off of the airtime. Then bad things start to happen, someone ends up dead, and we're trying to figure out, was it an accident? Is there a murderer among us? And also the history of the house, the host of the show, and some of the contestants. I loved the scenes that were actually the baking competition show in the tent, but also when the contestants are creeping around the house, like some of them are trying to look around, investigate either the house history or the other people staying in the house. And I remember there were a couple like darker scenes, literally like nighttime scenes or raining scenes, murder. So it has that cozy feeling with also the fun of a mystery thriller. And I feel like it'd be great to read in in autumn. Another one of my favorite thriller authors that I would like to recommend is Megan Miranda, specifically The Last to Vanish. She writes such addictive thrillers that I rarely even remember what happened when I'm done because I read them so quickly and had so much fun. And they're very immersive, and by the end I don't even care who did it because I had such a great time and the experience of reading it. But she often writes her books in the mountains, in the forest, by the ocean, so very much outdoorsy in the elements. I remember the first scene of Last to Vanish. It's dark, stormy night at an inn. The book is set in the North Carolina mountains, and this guy comes into an inn to see if they have any rooms available, and he just found them after driving through torrential rainstorm. There's a fireplace going. It's so cozy, and I just remember reading that opening scene like, oh my god, this is exactly the tone I was looking for. But in the book, that guy who comes to the inn is an investigative journalist. He is looking into the town of Cutter's Pass because they have a string of disappearances that have happened over the last 10 or 20 years that are seemingly unrelated, but he's intrigued to know if maybe they are related and why so many people have disappeared in this mountain town. And at first it seems like he might be digging into something that's not really there, but then he goes missing. So our main character who works at the inn is trying to find out what he was finding out to see if maybe he found something out that got him killed. And if small town, rainy, mountainside doesn't say autumn, I don't know what does. Next up, I'm gonna recommend The Anomaly by Michael Rutger. I feel like I've recommended this for all sorts of reasons, but I just wish I saw more people reading this book. This follows a group that's in a mockumentary, so a documentary where they don't really believe in what they are looking for. So they've had episodes, I think, on YouTube, and they're getting a program with a cable show. But they investigate things like Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Is that the same thing? I don't know, Yetis. So in this one, they go to the Grand Canyon to investigate some sort of creature or something that is rumored to be there. And they end up finding some scary stuff. So this book is more horror leaning. We have this crew deep in a cave canyon thing, and it gets spooky, and there's, you know, scenes where you lose power. It's pitch black, dark, can't see in front of your face. We're in a canyon mountain thing situation, and so there's scenes where you're in like a tight enclosed space and you don't know if you're gonna get out. We have shifting rock causing them to get trapped. I mean, all sorts of things. And then we have the mystery of what the heck is in there and what's happening in general. Is it supernatural? Is it something else? And I just had so much fun reading it, and it was scary, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually have the sequel that I still haven't read yet, which I'm looking forward to reading soon. Next up, I have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I feel like I wasn't really interested in this book before because it looks so generic. But I read Stacey Willingham's first book, really enjoyed it, and then this one I loved so much. So this one follows a woman who, her toddler went missing. He was taken from his crib, and I think it's a year later and she still doesn't know what happened to him, and she wants to find out. But she also hasn't slept in a year since that happened, besides little micro nap, and it's really affecting her mental stability. She's really unwell from the situation and just all consumed by it. And normally I think that sleep deprivation, sleepwalking, all that stuff, I think it's, I don't know, overdone. But this one, I really enjoyed that element of it because a couple times it makes you think that you're gonna get one of those classic generic cliche things that happen in those kind of sleep deprivation stories, and either you're wrong because the author made you assume it was something when it wasn't, or it is what happened, but the explanation or the bigger story behind it is so good. Like the plot twists in here were so entertaining, and again, it's a book that I just could not stop reading. This woman starts getting interviewed by a podcaster because she's trying so hard to figure out what happened to her son still a year later. And there's also a lot of question of true crime as a genre. Is it weird? Is it moral? Is it odd how obsessed people are with these real crimes that happen to people and how they become a fan of the scenario? So that was an interesting element, but also just the plot twists and the look into our main character's past were just So entertaining. Next up, you may have seen the video where I read this book, but that is Ghost Story by Peter Straub. This is a book that Stephen King said was truly terrifying, one of the scariest books he's ever read, which is what made me pick it up. And I really enjoyed it. I literally have a whole vlog dedicated to it. But this book follows a group of men in a small town who did something not so great way back when, and they think that an entity has come back to seek its revenge on them. It's a really long book and it is pretty spooky, but it's so much fun to read. I would recommend this more for the later fall because it is very cold and snowy, but so atmospheric because of that weather element. But if you want to know a bit more information about this book, go ahead and watch that vlog. Now we have a rather generic recommendation, even though I didn't want to give too many of those, but I had to mention The Only One Left by Riley Sager. If you love a ridiculous thriller, then this is the book. But it's so atmospheric, that's why I had to pick it. I mean, look at the cover. We're in this creepy house on the edge of a cliff, seaside. So we have a woman who is a caregiver who comes to take care of Lenora Hope, I think, who lives in this creepy house. And the rumor in town is that she murdered her entire family like 30 years ago. So our main character is finding out more about that, but also the house is literally crumbling into the ocean a little bit more each day. There's big cracks in the walls. We have some staff that's in the house that has been there since the whole entire family was murdered. So we have a lot of suspects that live there. It's just so much fun that I had to recommend it. And if you just love a plot twist and you don't mind 35 plot twists where it gets ridiculous, then this book is so much fun. Next up, I have a couple thrillers that give the academic school setting that you may be looking for during fall. So first up, For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This book, I just remember having fun reading. We were following a teacher at a private school and his point of view is so entertaining. He's just so self-absorbed, thinks that he needs to teach everyone a lesson, which gets a little dark in how he does that. But he thinks that he's above everyone and that he can get away with everything. But I feel like it's kind of funny. But the teacher in here that we're following, he just won Teacher of the Year award, but everyone thinks he's strange. His wife hasn't been seen in a while, and then some mysterious deaths start happening at the school, and we just get to sit on this wild ride while we find out what the heck is going on and how our main character might be involved in it and what he's been up to. So this one was a good time. And another academic setting is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. And in this one, we're following an English professor at a school, and she murders men that she thinks deserve to get murdered. And she's very dark, twisted person, but you feel sympathy and understanding for her, but she's out murdering men. But then some things happen where she starts to get investigated and starts getting nervous that she might get caught. So both of these are school settings, murders, and very unique main characters that have a very dark but entertaining mindset. And then we have The Changeling by Victor LaValle. This book, I think, was set in New York, which gave a great atmosphere to it. I mean, look at the cover. That looks like autumn to me. Something horrible happens with our main character's wife and child, and after that he goes on a bit of an adventure to figure out what happened, to find out if there are some paranormal events or creatures involved. And it's a bit of an adventure into fairy tale like realm. I don't know. We have a beautiful male friendship in this book that everybody loves. Just some interesting monsters and a mix of paranormal and real life and discussion of fatherhood that I just really loved. And again, was an autumny feeling book. And then finally, I wanted to get a little out of the fiction for a second and recommend two books I think would just be fun to read in autumn. So first off, probably one of my favorite books ever, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. So this is, it looks like a textbook, but it is the history of humankind from the beginning of Homo sapiens, actually before that a little bit. So it's very science-y. If you believe in evolution, it discusses that, but then it also is just discussing the history of humanity, how much we don't know about the tens of thousands or maybe 100,000 years that Homo sapiens had cognitive function, but there was no record keeping, so we have no idea what happened. But then also through you know, once things started getting recorded, how Homo sapiens as a species are the only one who can mass communicate, mass cooperate. Discussions of the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, just history, how people became the way they are. Discussion of the collective imagination, that's literally my favorite part, talking about how money isn't real, but how the ability to believe that money is real makes us all able to cooperate. I mean, it's so interesting. I love it so much. I recently read Homo Deus, which is the sequel. It's more so the author's predictions about what will happen in the future based off of history and the projection of how things are going, which wasn't nearly as good. I just love this book. I want everyone to read it, and just the perspective this gave me on life. I don't know, it's so dramatic, but I love this book so much. And then since I was looking at this, I wanted to think about one of my other favorite books that are nonfiction, which I haven't read in years, and it's kind of cringy to say, but Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. I've read this book probably 4 times, but not recently, so, and definitely not since this book, so I'm not sure which one's really my favorite. But this book, Creative Living Beyond Fear, is just such a fun book to read if you want to think about your creative life, whether that means you're actually pursuing anything creative or just in the general sense that all humans are creative, and discussing how creativity comes to us, how we need to draw it out, what to do with it. But I just love some of her ideas, which I may not even agree with, but of how creative ideas come along. And I really enjoy just reading someone discussing being creative, how to be curious, how to embrace these things we want to do, how art is sacred but it's not sacred, how we can take it seriously but also maybe we shouldn't take it so seriously. And it's inspirational, motivating. I don't know, I need to reread it now because now I'm just excited thinking about it again. But another great nonfiction to read during autumn time. Alright, so those are all the books that I want to recommend to you. This month I have a schedule set up for all of the videos and reading that I want to do. I haven't been the most consistent on this channel, as you probably know, but I have big plans, and I've realized that whenever I schedule these plans, I'm actually way more likely to vlog and post on my channel. So that's the plan for this month. All month though, I am reading autumnal reads, so if you have some recommendations, please let me know, because my TBRs aren't set in stone. I just know like the types of books I want to read. So if you have horror, spooky thrillers, cozy spooky stuff, please let me know, because I could use some more recommendations. So thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you pick up one of these books, and also if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so you can see all of the autumn reading I'll be doing this month. So I'll see you guys in the next video.